You're going to a party, and when you walk in, your friend opens the door with a red plastic cup in her hand. She's giggling and a lot more friendly than usual. Her eyes are a bit red and watery, and you recognize the faint smell of her breath as alcohol. As she goes to hug you, she stumbles and sort of leans on you as a prop. Why do people begin to act this way after a certain amount of drinks? Well, let's start with this. What is alcohol? Alcohol is a drug. More specifically, a depressant. A depressant slows down vital functions such as your heartbeat. This slowing down results in slurred speech, lost control of coordination, unsteady movement, disturbed perceptions, and slow reactions. If you drink more alcohol than your body can handle, it can be dangerous. You start to lose the ability to feel pain, become unconscious by either passing out or blacking out. One can even go into a comatose state or even death. These are the short-term effects of drinking. The long-term effects of drinking usually result in changes in metabolism of liver and brain, sometimes damage to the nervous system, or alcoholism. Adolescent brains are more vulnerable than those of adults. Both the short-term and long-term effects have a greater impact. So what causes people to act like this after drinking? Well, it all happens in the brain. Chemical levels of several neurotransmitters are affected by alcohol. Neurotransmitters are messengers that transmit chemical signals from neuron to neuron. There is a neurotransmitter in the brain called glutamate, and it's involved in cognitive functions, such as learning and memory. This chemical is mostly released in synapses in the hippocampus and the neocortex. The hippocampus is essential for memory and learning, and the neocortex is what allows for advanced social behavior. Glutamate levels are decreased by alcohol, while dopamine levels are increased. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that is released in the brain's reward system, allowing one to feel pleasure. This is why people feel pleasure after drinking alcohol. First, the cerebral cortex is affected after a few drinks. This part of the brain focuses on thought processes and consciousness. Inhibitions are suppressed and sensory reactions are slowed down, and then it becomes difficult to think clearly. After a moderate amount of alcohol ingested, the cerebellum is impacted, disturbing balance and slowing down physical movement. With a higher amount of alcohol in the brain, the pituitary gland, hypothalamus, and the medulla are disturbed, which can eventually lead to the slowing down of breathing and a lower body temperature. When excessive drinking is done, the brainstem can be affected, which is highly dangerous and can be fatal. Well, back to the party. You're just there and hanging out when someone takes out some pot, otherwise known as marijuana. After a while, some people are acting a bit weird. People move a lot slower and clumsily, are seemingly more relaxed, and their eyes have become a bit red and watery. How does this even happen? Well, pot, bud, weed, grass, or marijuana are the dried flowers, seeds, and leaves of a hemp plant that contains a chemical called THC. If smoked, the effects are almost immediately felt. There is increased heart rate, a lost control of coordination and balance, and one is put in a trance, dream-like state. Well, what are its long-term effects? It can cause damage to your lungs and certain parts of your brain, as well as increasing the risk of throat cancer. When you smoke marijuana, the chemicals become dispersed throughout your body through your bloodstream and almost immediately reaches your brain. There are cannabinoid receptors that are activated by anandamine neurotransmitters, and this is the chemical that THC mimics when it binds to these receptors. Many of cannabinoid receptors are in the hippocampus, specifically the place that is responsible for short-term memory. Therefore, short-term memory and coordination is impaired when under the influence of marijuana. After a while, learning and motor skills are affected negatively. One can become psychologically dependent, not biologically addicted, which can be just as powerful of an addiction if not careful. So again, you're at this party with your friends, and you can always do whatever you want to do as long as you're comfortable. And that's always fine. But again, it's always good to have this information handy when it comes to decision making.